Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Bolts Breakdown, the noon edition. Bryan Burns, beat writer for TampaBayLightning.com. Jay Recher here with you, 620 WDAE. Friday we're going to do 10 one more time because I'm hosting at noon that day on Black Friday, and then I got to get back here for the game. So we'll be doing 10 o'clock on Friday. Burnsy will be here. I'll be at the station, but every single time now we're going to move to noon, so it'll be kind of Bolts Breakdown, little lunch with Burnsy and Jay. You're cool with that, right?
Yeah.
We don't really have a choice. We're told where to be and what to talk about, and that's what we're gonna do. Before we get into tonight's game, Burnsy, with our Sunshine State rivals, easy for me to say, the Florida Panthers. Let's look back at the last game and the finish to that road trip. A tough game against the Nashville Predators. A lot of shots on goal for Nashville. The Lightning were fighting all the way till the bitter end, and you and I were talking about this before the show. Just thought they were going to get that equalizer. I'm surprised that they did.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of the game the previous year against Nashville in Nashville when it was Louis Domingue in goal. It was the second half of a back-to-back. Nashville started out on fire. The Lightning worked their way back in. Were able to get that equalizer with about 2 minutes left. Steven Stamkos scoring, and Yanni Gourde won it in overtime. And you thought maybe that similar scenario was going to happen this past trip to Nashville. Lightning really did a good job after falling down 3-1 of getting back into the game, kind of resetting themselves and just doing some of the little things that they needed to do to get back into the game and start playing well. I thought they had just way too many turnovers in the first period and about midway through the second period. Just not really taking care of the puck. Just
careless.
So just careless. So easy to get rid of it or to get rid of or to dispossess the Lightning of the puck, I should say. And I thought they kind of tightened that up about midway through the game and really just dominated that. It's funny because it looked like, when it was 3-1 Nashville, they came down and had two really good chances where they could have made it 4 or 5-1. I thought the Lightning were in danger of getting blown out of the building at that point. And then just something happened. They were able to reset. They were able to kind of collect themselves. And from that moment on, it was the Lightning that dominated the rest of that game. And unfortunate to get the one called back for Alex Killorn. I didn't really see a good replay of it. The replay TVs there are pretty small and few and far between, so I didn't get to see a good look at it. I was talking to Dave Mishkin after the game, and he said it was definitely a penalty.
Yeah, I think it was too.
Yeah, that it's something that they had to call, as were most of the penalties that night. They were pretty good penalties. So tough to see that one go away. You thought, well, when Kucherov was able to score that one early in the third period, maybe they'd be able to get back into it, but just a little bit too late for the Lightning in that game as far as not being able to put together a complete game and starting to play well, but only doing so maybe 35 minutes into the game.
Yeah, they got the first goal, which hasn't been a habit for the team this year.
Yeah.
But you look
twice in a row now they've gotten the
pretty
first
crazy.
goal, so break out the champagne.
We've been I watched back the day after the game, but at like the midway point of the second period, so the midway point of the game, they were getting outshot 27-12, I think it was. Just too many shots on goal given up. And, we asked Bobby the Chief Taylor this yesterday on 620 WDA. If you want to see the podcast for that, make sure you check it out, 620WDA.com, RonAndIan.com. It just, I don't know if you really notice it right away, Burnsy, but I think over time, after a week or two, you really see the difference when there's no Andre Plot and no Anton Strawman. And these are guys that are never going to blow you away with their stats on the stat sheet, but as far as steady play goes, I mean, they're probably two of the more solid guys, if not just on this team, but in the entire NHL. And I think you see some of the defensive shortcomings when they're not out there over time.
Yeah, but a little bit of good news, I guess, in that regard. Then that we saw Andre Palat for morning skate today. First time we've seen him. He's wearing a regular jersey, and Coop was asked about him after or in his morning skate press conference and said that he's kind of at a game by game stage now. So, probably, if I'm guessing, probably like a week away or so. But just to see him out there and getting back into action, that's definitely something that you want to see. Anton Strawman, again, was out there practicing. Is not going to play tonight. Coop said he's still not quite ready. But I think definitely at some point on his 5-game homestand, we'll see him, and hopefully as soon as Friday's game. And Cedric Paquette, who had to miss that Nashville game, if you remember, in that Philadelphia game late. He took a pretty hard shot lower to, I don't know exactly where it hit him.
Right?
Was it?
I think they said it was his hand.
Okay, yeah. He was blocking a shot and really seemed to get dinged up there. And Was able to finish that game out, credit to him, but wasn't able to play in the Nashville game. But he will be back in the lineup tonight. So I would imagine the Lightning probably go back to the 12-6 alignment. They went 11-7 because they were missing Paquette and they wanted to get Cuckoo in there. Yeah. We've all seen John Cooper. He's used that 11-7 alignment quite a bit throughout his career, but I think he'll probably go back 12-6 tonight.
Yeah, and that's one of the good things now that we're doing the show at noon. We can kind of give you guys an update from morning skate and also after John Cooper talks. So I think that's a benefit of doing it here at noon as well. And that was one of the questions that he answered, and you just alluded to it, the Paquette, the Strawman, and the Palat guys being back. But you're right, it's just good to see those guys back out there. Strawman wasn't doing too much skating. He was kind of just hanging and talking to John Cooper and the staff. But it was good to see Andre Palat out there kind of skating between the blue lines, getting his wheels, getting his bearings back. They need him. They need him to come back. And it's one of those things where, yeah, this team is good enough to kind of weather the storm with injuries. But when you have two guys that are that solid, you want them back sooner rather than later, especially when it's one of these injuries right now where it's not like a super long-term injury. It's kind of the waiting game. That's one of the hardest things to deal with. And especially against a team like Nashville. There's been a lot, before we get into tonight's game, I wanted to ask you too, Bryan Burns, beat writer, TampaBayLightning.com, Jay Recher, 620 WDAE here with you guys. It seems like there's a lot of injuries right now in the NHL.
Yeah.
PK Subban obviously missed that game the other night. You have Vasilevsky. You have Sidney Crosby out. It's kind of tough right now. Austin Matthews is out. There's just
Paul
Stastny from the Golden
Knights.
Knights.
Our opponent tonight with
Trocheck.
Yeah,
oh God,
big injury. Which, man, that was tough to watch, and it's surprising to me because the way he went down, it looked like it was a knee. Like it looked like his knee just exploded the way he kind of went down on the ice there, but it was an ankle. So there's a possibility that he might get back this season, which if it was a knee injury, he's probably out for a year, and you're talking about he's still rehabbing or still trying to get back into it going into next season. But an ankle, they released, the Florida came out and said today that it was an ankle injury, and they hope to get him back before the end of the regular season. So, good news there for Florida and good news for the NHL to see him be able to get back, because that was a scary scene up in Ottawa.
You know what that play reminded me of? It reminded me of the play a couple years ago when Anton Strawman had a similar play in front of the net.
Yeah.
And everybody thought it was his knee, and it ended up being his ankle. So good for Vincent Trocheck.
Yeah, he was able to get back.
Yeah.
If you remember, that was like right before the playoffs started, and Strauss was able to get back in. I think it was game 1 or 2 of the Eastern Conference final. I think game 2 he was able to get back into
the Penguins,
lineup.
right?
Yeah, up in Pittsburgh.
Bergeron also out. Fabio, thank you so much. Bryan Burns, Jay Recher. That's another big guy.
Boston.
Chars.
Boston
they have
themselves.
Five defensemen, I think, on IR, at least not playing because of injury. Where it's him, I think. The only guy left is Krug, but Char is out. Carlo's out. Kevin Miller's out. They got a bunch of guys. It's crazy to see how many injuries in the NHL right now. Bryan Burns, Jay Recher here with you on Bolts Breakdown. Again, like every single time, let us know where you're watching Bolts Breakdown from. Put it there on the bottom of the screen, and we'll do our best to answer it. Also, share this on your Facebook. Click share. Let us know. Say shared, where you're from, and who you think's going to score the first goal tonight for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Let's get to some of your questions. Dana Andres, is it on Sun Sports? Not on the listing. I think it is, though.
Yeah,
I know Friday's game is on NBC Sports Network, I believe. I think that's the one, a Friday game against the Chicago Blackhawks. They're going to be practicing tomorrow. You going to be at practice?
I think I'm going to skip that one.
Skipping that practice. Definitely not doing that.
That's the one where Cooper will send all the secret stuff they've been working on, because no one's going to be at practice.
Exactly.
That's the one
I wonder who's going to show up for that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Maybe
Not
we
me.
should show up just to see who is out there.
Let's just go. Burnsy and I will be the only ones doing it. Tommy Larson, Stockholm, standing by. Man, and Burnsy actually filled us in on the last Bolts Breakdown about the trip from Stockholm to Philly? That Anton Strawman and Victor Hedman's dad. How long was the trip?
Yeah, I talked to Victor Hedman's dad, Oli. He said it took him 27 hours.
Wow, man.
To get from, I guess he started in Orange Skoldsvig, where Victor's from and where his family's from. And then I guess he went to Stockholm, and then down to Frankfurt, he said, and then over to Philly. And it took him 27 hours. But he said he wouldn't miss it for the world. It was his, and Hetty said that, his dad marks that down on the calendar. Like, that's the one that he's not going to, he looks forward to that every year, that dad's trip. So a lot of fun to see the dads out on the trip. A lot of fun to see the older guys with, trying to figure out whose son You just look at the face, you can kind of tell.
But you can tell Adam Ernie's dad looks just like
but
him.
then you see the juxtaposition. Like, did you see how short Adam Ernie's dad was compared to Adam Ernie? He's like a pretty tall guy, pretty built. Adam Ernie's dad, pretty small. And then Tyler Johnson, kind of a short guy. His dad's probably about 6'2", 6'3".
No way. He's probably mad. Like, Dad, where did my stuff go? Where did my height go?
Yeah, and Hetty, I mean, you wonder where he gets his height from, because his dad's, probably 5'10", 5'11", maybe 6 feet tall, and Hetty's 6'6", 6'7". So it's funny to see the juxtaposition between the you wonder where they get the genes for the size that they have. But definitely you look at the face and you hear them talk. I heard Stamkos' dad talk, and I thought for sure it was Stammer, and I looked up and it was his dad. They have the exact same voice. And it was funny, we were taking the elevator, just one quick story, we were taking the elevator up in Philly. We were in the elevator with all the dads. They were going to the suite where the dads go to. And a concession worker came in, a Philly concession worker, and he had all the beer, so the guys were joking, they were grabbing a beer, like passing around, like, here's the guy we've been looking for. And the concession worker's like, which one of y'all is Stammer's dad? And he was like standing right behind us. He's like, hey, I am. He's like, did you teach him that shot? And Stammer's dad was like, no, we paid a lot of money for that shot. So the concession guy was like, well, it was a good investment.
Yeah.
So,
and now he's getting paid a lot of money for that shot, too. So it's working out pretty good. Let us know where you're watching Bolts Breakdown from. Put it there on the screen, like Leanne Scott. Happy Thanksgiving from Leesburg, Florida. That goes out to you. Also, share this on your Facebook. Let's get the word out. We want everybody to be the Thunder, like Ryan Figueroa. Ryan Figueroa is saying that Stammer gets the first goal tonight. Another quick update on the injuries. I know a lot of people just came in. Dana wants to know how Strawman. We saw all those guys on the ice today, Strawman, Paquette, and Palat. Paquette is the only one that will be in the lineup tonight. Strawman still probably a week or so away, maybe a couple games. You thought he would be in on Monday.
I thought he would have been in already. So I'm really taking it on a game-by-game basis. Like, I expect him to be in for the next game, and, until he's not, we'll just kind of take it at that point. And then Cedric Paquette, he's definitely in tonight. Palat still, maybe a week or so away. And saw Vazzy walking around the back in the locker room, too. So he's around and kicking.
Shout out to Austin watching from Lakeland.
I don't know if I should say kicking.
Not kicking. Yeah. Shout out to Austin watching from Lakeland. Continue to let us know where you're watching Bolts Breakdown from and making sure you're sharing this on Facebook. Burnsy, let's look into tonight's game against the Florida Panthers. What are your 3 keys to victory for the Bolts tonight?
For me, the biggest one, and we had talked about it a little bit earlier, but starting on time. And the Lightning have done that for the last 2 games. They've scored that first goal, although against Nashville, they scored the first goal and it seemed like they let up a little bit, or maybe just a little bit too fancy, they needed to play a more simple game, and they were just so quick to give up the puck and having trouble getting through the neutral zone. And so from pretty much the time they scored, they were in their own end for the rest of that first period, and Nashville was really pushing. So for me, really need to start on time, and you look at where Florida is. They do most of their damage in the first period. They have a +7 goal differential in the first period. So they'll be looking to start on time. I think the Lightning need to match that. And if they can come out of the first period even or ahead, I think that'll bode well for them going in through the rest of the game. Second, for me, Lightning really need to just shoot the puck. They've gotten into a rut here of where they're getting outshot by quite a bit by some of their opponents. If you look 5 of their last 6 games, the Lightning have gotten outshot. So for me, I think they need to reverse that. Try to get some more shots, try to look for some of those shots from the point, and maybe quit with the fancy passing, and just get more pucks on net, and then hunt those second chance rebound opportunities down, because that's where a lot of those goals can be scored from. And then third, for me, I think they have a chance here to be a little bit more physical than Florida. If you look at what Florida's on right now, they're on a 6-game road trip. Wow. This is day 10 of that road trip, the 5th game. And it's kind of a weird road trip. They they went to Philly, then Ottawa, or Philly, Columbus, Rangers, then up to Ottawa. Wow. Now they're coming down here to play Tampa, and then they got to go back up to Carolina before they return home. So they've been bouncing around all over the place. They've been on the road for a while. They're a team that should be a little bit fatigued, should be a little bit road weary. I think the Lightning have a real opportunity to maybe outmuscle them, play a little bit more physical, and then maybe you can demoralize them in that way.
I'll get to my one to watch. I want to answer a couple questions here. Thank you, Dana Andres, for watching in St. Pete and also sharing. Make sure you guys do the same thing. Let us know where you're watching and share it. I feel like I said it 7 times, but we really want you guys to do it. Who is first on ice today? I don't know. We got there a little late.
Marty St. Louis had a media availability earlier today, so
let's talk about that real quick. It was good to see Marty just rocking a polo and some jeans.
Yeah.
Just being able to talk. I put a bunch of the videos and a bunch of the tweets up on my Twitter at @JRecher. Brian's got some stuff up as well at @BBurnsNHL. Make sure you guys go check that out. Really cool to see Marty after he's been inducted into a Hall of Fame. You just get he's just so graceful and such a gracious guy. And man, I thought one of the most interesting things from him was he thinks he'll be back in the game. He's doing a lot of coaching for his kids now, and I know he does. I think it's the Junior Rangers up there in Connecticut. That's where their AHL team is, the Hartford Wolfpack. He kind of left the door open to possibly being a coach in the NHL. That'd be pretty interesting to see Marty behind the bench somewhere.
Yeah, someone asked him if he would remain in the game or if he has any aspirations of maybe trying to get into the front office or anything. Yep. And he said, that he right now he's enjoying the time with his family, watching his kids play, being a coach, and being able to go to all their weekend tournaments and perform that role. But he said, a couple of years from now, once he's been away from the game for a little bit, he'd like to get back into maybe working in a front office, or whether that's scouting, trying to get in as in a role where he can get to maybe potentially a GM,
That'd be great.
Coaching. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what that career path follows for Marty St. Louis.
And he was talking about that competitive spirit and just being in the trenches. He loves it, man. You could tell he's not. Some people, when they retire, it's like, all right, that's it. I'm done with the game.
Yeah.
Guys like Kobe Bryant and Derek Jeter really stand out to me. Just they're like, nope, we're good, we're done. Not Marty, man. He's still in there. He's got the fever for hockey, and I don't think it's going away anytime soon.
Yeah, he gets to scratch that itch too when he watches his kids play and coaches. He said he still gets that same intensity, that same drive to want to win and want to compete. Just coaching the kids, that he still fuels off that. So pretty interesting to hear how he can continue to kind of keep that competitive spirit going.
For anybody that's going to be at the game tonight at Amalie Arena, they're going to honor Marty St. Louis tonight. What are they doing? Is it going to be pregame? Or?
Yeah, pregame there'll be a ceremonial puck drop, and kind of like how they had the Vinny night. What was that, last year? Mm-hmm. All these nights and retirement and jersey numbers ceremonies are kind of jumbling together. But yeah, it's going to be just like a Marty night. I'm sure there'll be highlights from his career up on the big board. He'll be doing a ceremonial puck drop, and should be a lot of fun.
My one guy to watch for tonight's game against the Florida Panthers got to be Alexander Barkov, Sasha Barkov, especially with a guy like Vinny Trocheck out. We mentioned his injury before, a rough ankle injury, but it could have been worse. But, man, those two guys as two top centermen in the league, and John Cooper talked about this as well after morning skate today, about how responsible both those guys are defensively and that they don't cheat on offense, especially a guy like Barkov. He's one of the more underrated. I think the players voted him the most underrated player in the league. I picked him to be the Selke Trophy Award winner before the season because of how responsible he is defensively, but his hands are just incredible, and he always seems to play well against the Lightning. The one thing other than Brian Boyle that stood out to me about the skills competition last year during All-Star Weekend was how good he was with the puck and how Ovechkin and Crosby and everybody could not take their eyes off of Alexander Barkov. He is that good, and he's a guy that the Lightning really need to contain tonight and get back to basics and make sure that they're getting shots on net, not trying to be too fancy, and you're going to probably put that Braden Point line in Alex Barkov.
Yeah, going to be a big task for the Braden Point line, and I really feel like that how the Lightning go kind of mirrors how Braden Point goes. If he's having an off night, it feels like the Lightning are having an off night, and when Pointer's engaged in the game and playing the way that we know he can play, it seems like the Lightning's fortunes are much better. I thought you really got a sense of it in the Ottawa game here, and then the Buffalo game in Buffalo. Both of those games I thought were maybe Braden Point's two worst games. He just really didn't make much of an impact in the game, and the Lightning lost both those games. The next two nights in Pittsburgh, obviously with the hat trick, the natural hat trick on the power play, and then the following game in Philadelphia, I thought those were two of Pointer's best games, and the Lightning won both of those games. So it'll be really imperative that Braden Point line is able to shut down that Barkov line and also able to do some things offensively as well.
All right, Brian and I will take a couple more questions from you guys. Again, put your question there in the screen. Make sure you share this on your Facebook and tell us where you're watching from today. We'll do our best to let you guys know and answer any of your questions. Fabio wants to know, in your opinion, will we also see a Dave Andreychuk night where Tampa will retire the number 25?
I don't know, because, I mean, obviously we all know what Dave Anderchuk means to this franchise. I mean, he's got a statue out front. It's him holding the Stanley Cup, the only Stanley Cup that this
that's why I'd
franchise
say yes,
has
but
ever run.
Why do I feel like it's not a slam dunk?
I think most people around the NHL associate him with the Buffalo Sabres. He's been with so many teams throughout his career, and it wasn't like he was here for a long time in Tampa Bay. I mean, he was here through some really important moments, and he's obviously still here. He's part of the front office.
Saw him this morning.
Just plays a great role as far as what he does with the organization, as far as the alumni and all that. So it's great that he's still around and that he's still a big part of this franchise. As far as a retirement or a jersey retirement, I don't know. I feel like maybe just not enough games played here to warrant that kind of nomination.
I'm with you, man. And just realize there's no echo today. Yes, I'm with you, Dana. We're definitely going to work on that. Our IT guy's in Disney, so unless you want to go to Epcot and let him know. Last one, Austin wants to know, what's your thoughts on Louis Domingue since he took over as temporary number 1? Will we see Eddie Pasquale play in his first NHL game anytime soon? It was his birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Eddie.
I don't think he'll be getting a birthday present tonight.
Nah. Especially with Louis being the first guy off the ice tonight.
Louis, he's going to make his 5th consecutive start tonight. I think Louis played really well. There's been some moments where I feel like he's not as controlled in his crease as Vasilevsky is. If you notice, a lot of Vasilevsky's movements are more economical. He doesn't waste any movement is a necessary movement. With Louis, he's maybe a little bit more maybe overcommits to one side, and that leaves the other side of the net open, and so he's kind of going back and forth a little bit more than you'd see from Vasilevsky. But we talked to him after the Nashville game, and he seemed pretty pleased with how he was playing. We asked him what it's been like to start these last 4 games, and he says, when you're a starter and you're playing regularly, it's much easier. Because you're not really thinking too much. You're just going out and reacting, whereas when he's in his backup role and he's only getting in once every 2 weeks or so, you do all this stuff in practice to prepare for the game, and then you don't really have anywhere to you don't have that outlet to show what you've been working on. You just have to wait for your next start every 2 weeks. So when you get that start, you're just kind of thinking about everything rather than just going out there and playing. And he said this little stretch here has allowed him to just go out and play, and he feels like he's playing pretty well right now. So I think that's good news for the Lightning, that he feels comfortable and he feels like he's on top of his game, and hopefully we can continue to see him put up some good performances here. I really don't see Eddie Pasquale playing until the Lightning have a back-to-back set on December 3rd and 4th. So I think probably the second half of that back-to-back, maybe the first half, depending on who they play. I think that might be the first time that we see Pasquale, but I think Louis Domingue's going to get the bulk of the starts here. It reminds me of like 2 years ago when it was Ben Bishop and Vasilevsky, and I think it was around Christmas time Ben Bishop got injured. And you saw Vasilevsky make like 10 straight starts in a row, and they really wanted to just throw him in there and see how he could do playing every one of those games. I think that's what they want to do with Louis Domingue. Throw him in there, let him make every one of those starts, and just see how he holds up.
Bryan Burns, beat writer for TampaBayLightning.com. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at BBurnsNHL. You can follow the team at TB Lightning. Make sure you go to TampaBayLightning.com for all the best news and notes. Lisa Hartley, one of our favorite viewers. Sorry you're late, General. What are our injury updates? We said it. We'll say it again just for you, Lisa, because you watch us all the time. Paquette back in the lineup tonight. No Strawman, no Palat. We'll have more for you on Friday, day-to-day with both of those guys. I'm Jay Recher, 620 WDAE. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Jay Recher. Follow the station at 620 WDAE. Go to 620WDAE.com for the best Bolts coverage. Game is up the dial on our sister station, 970 WFLA, and also on the TV tube, Fox Sports Sun. That's going to wrap it up for us today from Amalie Arena. We'll be back in action. You know what? More than I think about it, Burnsy, I got to be in here. No echo on Friday, on Black Friday. I'll be here. So we'll be doing it back at 10 o'clock on Friday, and then we're going to head back to noon for every following game after that. Unless Burnsy's on the road, we got to make adjustments. Just stay with us. Follow the Lightning. Follow 620 WDA on your Facebook. You'll get an alert when we go live here on Bolts Breakdown.